he just showed up, and I'm like, oh, Lord, I think that's Elvis.
Hold on, you're sitting at home. You're sitting at home at the table, and you hear a knock at the door, and it's Elvis Presley. Brenda Lee, thank you so much for being here. It's a great joy to meet you.
Well, it's nice to meet you as well.
You started performing at a really young age. We're going to talk about Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree in a second, but you've been performing since you were a kid. What are your earliest memories of performing?
Oh, goodness. My earliest memories are being on the Red Foley show, Perry Como show, Steve Allen show, those kind of things. I started out in TV really young, at about 9 years old, 10 years old, somewhere along in there.
When you were 11, you get signed to a record deal. That's such a strange thing to happen to an 11-year-old. What was that like for you?
I don't even remember that, to tell you the truth. I know it was a big deal for everybody around me, but I think when you're 11, you're just kind of enjoying the moment. You're having fun. You're doing what you do, and you just leave that side of the business to somebody else.
The story you have is really interesting because, and we don't have to talk about this too much, but your dad passed away when you were really young, when you were 6 years old. You and your mom worked, was it 16 hours a day at a cotton mill to provide for the family?
My mom did, yes.
And I can only imagine that you must have felt like, given that you were getting all this attention as a young performer, given that you were getting all this attention as a young artist, it was not just a nice thing to do, but it was probably a way for you and your family to get by.
Absolutely. But I loved it. It wasn't a job to me. And I know that I could have said at any moment, I don't want to do this anymore, and I wouldn't have had to.
So it wasn't a big weight to carry to know that you were sort of providing for your family when you were really young.
No, I never thought of it that way.
Looking back now, do you see it a little bit like that?
Yeah, I do now. But, nobody would ever come up and say, well, Brenda, if you didn't sing, your family couldn't eat. It was none of that stuff. We were a close-knit family with our cousins, our aunts, our uncles, everybody. When one didn't have something, the other one stepped in. So it was great.
Where were you growing up? Where was that?
Georgia.
Were you singing any old? I'm a great fan of the old folk songs and the old ballads and that kind of stuff. And we had Dolly Parton on the other day, and she and I were talking about Barbara Allen and all those kind of old mountain songs. Did you sing any of those growing up in your family?
Not really. No, I was raised on Red Foley and Hank Williams.
Did you meet Hank? Did you meet him?
Yes, very short. Did a show at the Bell Auditorium in Augusta, Georgia, and he was on the show.
What do you remember about him?
Tall, lanky, big old cowboy hat. It wasn't that he wasn't cordial. It was just that he was rushed around a lot. But I did get to meet him.
Because you used to sing jambalaya on the bayou, right?
I did, and he wrote a song, one of the first songs I ever learned, called Mansion Over the Hilltop. It was a gospel song, and I sang that a lot.
How does that go? I don't know if I know that one.
I'm satisfied with just a cottage below, a little silver, a little gold. Great song.
You know you're making my day right now, right? Let me listen to another one of your songs. Take a listen to this.
Oh gosh, I don't know which
sorry,
one. Oh, yay!
So sorry that I was such a fool. I didn't know love could be so cruel.
If you can't hear it in my voice, just one of the great songs. That is Brenda Lee and I'm Sorry from 1960. I was nice to see you smiling while I played that for you. What went through your mind when you were listening to that?
Well, I was thinking about the writer and the session and Owen Bradley, and just a lot of things go through your mind.
I heard a story that the record company didn't think you could do it. They didn't think that a young kid like yourself could.
Well, they didn't think it would be believable that a young kid would be singing a song like that. But you can't ever outthink the audience. They know what they want, they know what they like, and they do it.
You mentioned that song was produced by sort of the big three of Nashville producers of that era, the great Owen Bradley, who
Absolutely.
worked especially in Canada. We would know his work with Katie Lang in some of her work in the 1980s. I would know him best through working with you and working with Patsy Cline.
Absolutely. He was the girl guy in town that all the girls wanted him to record them.
And did Patsy Cline? I heard a story that Patsy Cline really took you under her wing. Can you tell me about that?
Well, she was one of my dear friends, and we talked a lot. We respected each other, and she gave me a lot of good advice. And then we lost her.
What advice did she give you?
Be myself. If you feel it's right, do it. Don't be swayed. If you love a song, don't be swayed if nobody else does. And just be yourself. You are who you are.
Let's talk a little bit about Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree. I think a lot of people would be surprised to know, and I was surprised to know when I found out that you were 13 when you recorded that song. How did you end up recording that song?
Well, it was brought to Owen Bradley, who was my producer, by the writer, Johnny Marks. Owen just thought it'd be great to do a Christmas song that was really, really good. And he really believed in that one. And I loved it, and we did it. And it laid around a while, and all of a sudden it was in the movie Home Alone. And then it just shot up the charts.
What did you think of it when you first heard it?
I liked it. I had to like what I recorded. I wasn't one of those artists that the producer would say, well, I think this is good for you. We're going to do this. I had to like it, or I couldn't sing it.
Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree was not a hit right away?
No, it certainly wasn't.
Now, I didn't know that. What do you mean it wasn't a hit right away?
Well, I mean, it certainly wasn't what it became. It didn't right off the bat go up the charts. And then I got a phone call, and they said, Brenda, have you seen the movie Home Alone? And I said, I have not. And they said, well, you need to go see it. Your song's all over it. And that's really where Rockin' got a big, big boost.
Does your life change at all after that?
No, not at all. I mean, I didn't know if the song made $1, $5, $10. I didn't know. I was just doing what I love to do, and that was to sing.
You and Mariah Carey get talked about a lot. Neck and neck for the Queen of Christmas. Have you ever met Mariah?
No, I have not.
I think if you two met, they might have to postpone Christmas by a few years. We wouldn't be able to handle it.
Well, she's good. I'll give her that.
Speaking of music legends, in 1962, the Beatles opened up for you during your residency in Hamburg, in Germany. What do you remember about meeting the Beatles? That was right before they blew up.
John was my favorite. I talked with John more than any of them. I don't know why, but we talked a lot about music and old timers in the industry and people we liked and all that kind of stuff.
What were they like back then? What were they like on stage? Did you get to see them?
I did. They were good. They were teddy boys. They dressed like teddy boys. They were raw, but they were good. You could tell that the talent was there, songs, writing, life. John was, I guess, the most introverted one, the deep thinker of all of them.
There's another story I wanted to get off from you. It was that Elvis Presley showed up at your house one day because he loved your song, Sweet Nothings?
Yeah. I signed an autographed copy of it for it.
Can you tell me that story?
He just showed up, and I'm like, oh, Lord, I think that's Elvis.
Hold on, you're sitting at home at the table, and you hear a knock at the door, and it's Elvis Presley?
Well, that's kind of how it happened. It's been so long ago. Now, see, my manager and Elvis's manager, the Colonel, were very, very close. In fact, they were in partnership on managing some of the entertainers. So I kind of had as it were, an inside door to get in if I ever wanted that. But we met and we appreciated each other and respected each other, and that was it.
So he knocks on your door and you go to the door and you're saying, okay, I wonder who's at the door. It's Elvis Presley. He's the most famous person in the world. And he's saying to you, hey, I really love your song, Sweet Nothings. Can you sign this for me?
Uh-huh. And I did. I said, sure I can. Come in a minute. He did. I signed it. He left.
I have a little bit of the song. Let's listen.
Uh-huh, honey. All right. My baby whispers in my ear. Sweet nothing. He knows the things I like to hear. Sweet nothing.
That's a great song, Brenda.
Isn't that a good song?
What do you remember about recording that one?
Oh gosh, that was a good session because all of my sessions were good because all of the musicians contributed ideas. And it was very personal. It wasn't just a run in, cut a song, leave. My sessions were personal and the musicians took a big part in it and I loved it.
You mentioned that Hank Hank Williams. He said he was tall, and it's not that he was aloof, but he was a little bit distant. And you mentioned that Patsy Cline was really warm and very nurturing, and gave you great advice. Brenda, like you got to understand that these people are mythical to me. These people are like cartoon characters to me. In particular, Elvis Presley. What was he like? I hear he was very, very polite and very, very sweet.
He was very, very gentle and sweet and kind. He loved his family, especially his mother. He loved his life. He never expected it to go as viral as it did. I think he was even surprised. And I think a lot of his success bothered him because he couldn't get away from it. He loved it, but he never got a break. And he was a sweet, sweet man.
I think you're smart like that, you know that, if you don't mind me saying so. I think
thank you.
I think you've seen a lot of people of your generation and who have had big hits like you enter that sort of like big stratosphere, and it kind of ruins their life. It seems to me as an outsider, like you've always managed to keep a relatively simple life at home while having this really big career. Do you know what I mean by that?
I absolutely do. I've had a wonderful husband. I have 2 wonderful daughters, and I have 3 precious grandchildren. It's just been, God has been good, and the fans have been good, and they've respected our privacy, and they're my friends. They're my friends.
I mean, is that intentional? Is it the kind of thing where you're like, listen, I can see how this life can turn out. I want to have a simpler life?
I think some of it was. I do. After I got into it, and it got so big and so spread out, I think some of it was.
Do your grandchildren know that their grandmother's Brenda Lee?
Yeah, they don't care. And that's the truth.
They don't care. They don't care that she's a legend. Their grandmother's a legend.
No, they don't care. And that's good. That's a good thing.
I hope when they come into the house, you get the Grammy out and show it to them just in case.
I don't think they'd know what it was.
I should say Elvis wasn't the only fan of Sweet Nothings. Just take a listen to this. So I can see your face there. That is the legendary rapper and hip hop producer Kanye West with a song called Bound 2. And that samples Sweet Nothings by Brenda Lee. Did you know about that?
Oh, okay. I couldn't figure that one out.
Did you know that existed? Did you know that he sampled Sweet
I
Nothings?
did know that existed.
What do you make of that?
Well, you're always proud when another artist honors you by doing your song. It's always a nice thing.
Well, I mean, looking back at this incredible career you've had, you've been inducted into both the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Country Music Hall of Fame. You won Grammys. You influenced some of the biggest musicians in the world. Taylor Swift, I heard, wrote an essay about how important you are to her.
That's what I hear. I wish I could find it.
I'm sure we could track it down. You're Brenda Lee. I'm sure we can track it down for you.
Well, she certainly had a run. I'm proud for her. She's a sweet, sweet lady.
And a great, speaking of songwriters, a great songwriter as well.
Absolutely.
When you look back at this incredible career you've had, what are you most proud of?
I think I'm most proud that I have always treated my fans with respect and loyalty and love, and they've treated me the same way.
Brenda Lee, what a joy, what an honor it was to get a chance to talk to you. Truly. Thank you so much for
Thank
making the
you.
time.